Last month, a group of scammers successfully stole $240 million from a single victim.
No way.
Oh my god! $242 million! Do you know how much money that is?
This group of dweebs lasted about as long as Concord did. Because within a month, they were caught.
Zach XBT, a crypto investigator who's responsible for tracing $230 million of crypto that was scammed by the most pathetic people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, boom. And, we thought that was a shooting in the neighborhood. And we saw a lot of police. This was something that never happened in this neighborhood. Most of the time was a lot of party. It was party because I can hear from my house the music.
On August 19th, 2024, the crypto community stood still as word got out that there was a new dog in town. A group of young guys had pulled off the craziest and wildest digital heist ever, stealing over $230 million in digital currency. The craziest part of the whole heist was that they didn't need high-tech tools or some complex hacking skills. All they needed was some phone calls and a screen-sharing app. Crazy, right? So how did they do it? How could this bunch of hacking noobs pull off such an amount of money with ease? What's even crazier is how they could launder such an amount of money without getting caught, at least initially, but also what led to them getting caught after such a smooth pull-off? Now, you might be wondering, who are the masterminds behind this level of heist? Well, you'd be surprised to know that these guys are your everyday crypto boys who came up with a plan, and it kind of paid off. Apparently, the hackers were Malone Gravy's Lamb, Veer was Chattel, Jean-Deal Boxerano, a dude named Danish Khan, and Chen. These guys must have worked out their plan for several months, practicing and test running their tricks. They might have even tried out with smaller heists that went unnoticed in the past, but this time, they were going for the big guns. You see, each and every member of the 5 criminals wasn't just there by chance, they were part of the team because of the role they intended to play and the skills they had. Take, for instance, Malone was more of the technical mastermind, while Veer, Chattel, and Jean-Deal were the impersonation and manipulation experts. Crazy, right? The whole thing looked solid. Yeah, well, maybe it did, but they probably needed a leader to help them pull off such a move without getting caught. We've all seen countless movies showing hackers hunched over computer screens with streams of code running across their monitors. The reality, however, is that hacking doesn't always work that way. In fact, unless you're programming, hacking often doesn't require a single line of code. As many white hat hackers have pointed out, one of the most common ways to steal someone's information is through the simplest method: social engineering. If you're wondering about what that means, it's essentially manipulation and deception, achieved by pretending to be a trustworthy person or entity. In this case, the scammers posed as companies the victim knew and trusted. So, how did it happen? It all started on August 18th, 2024, with a call from Veer Chattel, or rather, a customer representative from Google support using a spoofed number. During the call, he claimed that the victim, a Genesis creditor, had some of his accounts compromised and needed to secure them. This deception granted them access to the victim's Gmail and iCloud accounts, which was the first step in the process of nearly ruining him. Sounds simple, right? The truth is, Google never makes calls like that. Think about it. When has Google ever called you except to send a code for two-factor authentication? Nonetheless, the victim fell for the straightforward but cunning trick, and that's when the real action began. Now, let's say you receive a call from your email provider about a potential hack. You might be a bit shaken, but you'd probably dismiss it or handle it calmly. But realistically, if you get a call from your crypto exchange provider claiming your account is compromised, you're likely to panic, especially if you have significant funds at stake. Unless you're broke, that would definitely rattle you. That was precisely the scammer's next move, as they, Veer Serrano, called the victim, posing as a representative from the crypto exchange, and claimed their account was compromised. He then instructed the victim to reset their two-factor authentication to further protect the account. Remember, the scammers already had access to the victim's email, so resetting the two-factor authentication was like showing a suspicious person where your hidden safe is stacked. By 11:55 p.m. of August 18th, they already had access to the victim's atomic wallet, their blockchain wallet's email address, a wallet ending in 3P, and their Gemini account. But, well, that alone isn't enough to get the contents, yeah? It needed one final step to get the combination, and that's exactly what they did. In the final step of taking control of the account, they instructed the victim to install a piece of software called AnyDesk on his computer. For those familiar with this app, it essentially allows for remote screen sharing. Once someone uses AnyDesk and shares the link, the other party can view and control what's happening on the screen. Now, not to victim blame, but how did the victim not figure out what was happening at this stage? But let's be real, never say it couldn't happen to you, because it very well could. Once the victim used AnyDesk and logged into their crypto wallet, the scammers could see the private key. For those who don't know, a private key is essentially the combination to the safe. With that key, the scammers accessed the victim's funds, amounting to about 4,063 BTC, and their mission was complete.
Oh, wow.
No way. No f***ing way.
I see it. It's on the blockchain. It's on the blockchain, bro.
No way.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
You could imagine how excited the scammers were once they realized they had just pulled off the greatest heist in crypto history. And who wouldn't scream in excitement after stealing over $230 million? But then came the challenge. How do you move such a massive amount without alerting authorities and drawing attention? Well, when someone steals that kind of money, you can't just deposit it into an account, light up a blunt, and order wings. No, this is when they need to move the money and keep it hidden. These scammers understood this basic principle and moved on to the laundering stage, which was almost sophisticated. The blockchain, while decentralized, is still transparent enough that anyone can trace transactions. So, to move such a large amount undetected, they had to use methods to obscure their trail. One of the techniques they used was peel chaining, which involves breaking the money into smaller and smaller transactions across different exchanges to make it harder to trace. This method is similar to tumbling, where stolen funds are mixed with legitimate money until it's impossible to tell which is which. It was a smart approach, and these scammers were diligently executing it.
Go to the top right, the settings bar. Settings, no, not that. Like the swap settings. Set custom recipient. No, bro, what the hell? Do 998.
Alright, bro, you're so horrible.
You can't.
Bro, I'm clearly busy, Caleb. Planning a heist.
By 4 or 5 a.m. on the August of 19th, they made the first transaction, which was withdrawing 642.37 BTC. Then they followed with 625, 2,172, and 624 BTC. This stolen fund was sent to their main laundering wallet, which totaled the stolen funds to 4,064.37 BTC. From there on, they kept swapping tokens from Bitcoin to other cryptocurrencies and back again, repeating the process to mask their trade. They also used Monero, a privacy coin known for concealing transaction details and enhancing anonymity. A major player in helping do all the laundering was one of Wiz's friends, Akash, who moved most of the funds through ThorSwap and EXCH. To further cover their tracks, they used different exchanges layering the transactions. To the average person, it looked like they'd done everything necessary to hide the money without raising any red flags. It almost seemed like they were in the clear. In the end, the stolen funds were split 3 ways, and from there, it was time to spend lavishly. Once these guys cleared the funds, it was time for them to live a life only young millionaires could dream of. We're talking about the latest rides, private jet rentals, the best parties, the trendiest clothes, and diamond-encrusted jewelry. They began to order some of the most expensive items available, like jackets, Richard Mille wristwatches that go from like $100,000 to over $1 million. Diamonds were the least of their problems, as most times Malone's wrists were usually iced out. Of course, what else would you expect from young men who suddenly came into a huge amount of money through illegal means? They had to live the lifestyle that screamed they were the hottest things in town. One of the guys who took lavish spending to a whole new level was Malone Lamb. Before word got out about their heist, social media was buzzing about a new player in town. Rumors were swirling about someone who was shutting down clubs in LA and Miami and spending insane amounts of money. Was that Malone? Well, yes. Malone had been frequenting the clubs in LA, closing out the VIP sections. Some nights, he was said said to spend at least $500,000 on drinks. On other nights, he's getting racking bills of over $200,000 to $250,000 and showing off. Since nightlife thrives in such displays, Malone's reputation grew quickly, and his name became a staple for most hype men. Let's just say no one missed out on the fun, as he showered DJs, hype men, and random women with money and drinks. This spectacle led to a flood of trending videos on Snapchat and TikTok, with people asking the same question: who is Malone? As if drinks and spending weren't enough, he took it to the next level by handing out Birkin bags at clubs. Some of these bags cost tens of thousands of dollars, but to him, it was just a drop in the bucket of his newfound wealth. The gifting was spontaneous. He would likely spot a beautiful girl and hand her a Birkin. These girls were excited and shared their stories on social media about the mysterious guy who couldn't stop giving. But what was the point of gifting these bags? Was it to win the favor of the girls? Or was he just a show-off trying to impress women with expensive gifts? If you guessed he was a show-off, then you're right.
Guys, I can't even make this up when I say that I just woke up to a Birkin in my bedroom because a man gave it to me in the club last night. This is your sign to go clubbing.
An instance of this was when he bought his ex-girlfriend a pink Lamborghini Urus and still got rejected. It was even more shocking because she told him she had a boyfriend and didn't care about his extravagant gift. Props to her for that. When he wasn't spending money at the clubs, he was also buying assets to show off his new status. And what better way to do that than by acquiring houses and cars? Since Malone made such an enormous amount of money, he needed a place to crash after his nights out. And getting a home seemed like the right move, right? That's exactly what he did by renting a $10.5 million waterfront mansion in Miami, located at the intersection of Northeast 83rd Street and North Bayshore Drive. This house, costing about $62,000 per month, was reserved for the high rollers. In case you didn't know, that's a prime upscale community. With this mansion, he enjoyed 10 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, and a massive pool and jacuzzi. As the house spanned over 8,500 square feet, it had more than enough space for parties and hosting friends. Perfect for spending their stolen fortune. Remember how we mentioned Malone gifted his ex-girlfriend a pink Lambo? If he did that, it's only expected he would drive something even more extravagant himself. He did just that, splurging on luxury cars including a Pagani Huayra worth over $3.8 million, a black Ferrari SF90 Stradale, a McLaren 765 LT, and several Lamborghini models, including Revuelto, Aventador, and Urus variants. He also added a Porsche 911, GT3 RS, a Rolls-Royce, a BMW, and multiple Mercedes-Benz G-Wagons to his lineup. And let's not forget the white Lambo with his name emblazoned on the door. That's one crazy car collection. In fact, by the time he was caught, he claimed that he bought over 31 luxury cars. However, the authorities said they had only seized 22. This guy was buying luxury cars and gifting them to his friends just for fun, but the fun didn't last. A crypto vigilante got on their case, triggering what would become the beginning of the end. While Malone and his friends were living lavishly, the victim was likely going through the worst days of their life. Losing over $230 million would devastate anyone. Fortunately for them, on the streets of crypto Twitter, there was a vigilante fighting for the victims of crypto scams. And this time, he had set his sights on Team Malone. And to the crypto analyst, Zach XBT, who has recently become a thorn in the side of scammers. According to an interview, Zach XBT claimed to have helped victims recover nearly $500 million. In an unlucky twist for Malone and his crew, Zach took an interest in their case and began tracing their scam. In a Twitter thread posted on September 19th, 2024, Zach XBT detailed how these guys laundered the money. Pulling off a scam of this scale requires airtight precision, as a single slip-up can lead to exposure. Take Giandel Serrano Box, who was responsible for masking the funds. He made a critical error by using personal wallets to move some of the funds. At one point, he mixed laundered funds with the dirty cash, which was enough to attract attention. His repeated use of the same addresses also made it easier for investigators to notice him during the investigation. For those familiar with crypto, it's common knowledge that most personal information is linked to any centralized exchange used to withdraw funds. All investigators needed to do was trace the money, and before they knew what hid them, the feds showed up at your door. The group's sloppiness ultimately sealed their fate. In a weird move, they decided to screen record their conversations and reactions, possibly as throwback material, but it was a spectacularly foolish choice. These recordings only provided more evidence for investigators, thereby serving as digital footprints. In one of those recordings, Veer Chattel even used his real name, instantly making him an accomplice.
We hear boom, And, we thought that was shooting in the neighborhood. And we saw a lot of police. This was something that never happened in this neighborhood. Most of the time was a lot of party. It was party because I can hear from my house the music.
These digital slip-ups made it easy to piece together the entire team, thereby allowing investigators to identify everyone involved. Not everyone gets the attention of the FBI, and attracting their attention means these guys were top dogs. Of course, you can't pull off a heist involving such a large amount of money and not expect the feds to burst through your door. On September 18th, 2024, the FBI raided their luxury home in Miami and arrested Malone. On the same day, they also arrested Serrano at the Los Angeles International Airport after arriving from a trip to the Maldives. This was the end of their 1-month spending spree, and they were now facing the inevitable consequence: spending time behind bars. That's what happens when you steal people's hard-earned funds. After the arrest, authorities managed to recover over $70 million in stolen funds and frozen assets. Based off what we currently know, around $500,000 was returned to the victim, with authorities continuing their efforts to recover more. However, the reality is that the victim will likely only get a portion of what was lost, as much of the money was spent lavished. Sure, because of asset forfeiture, all the cars, clothing, and jewelry bought with the stolen funds would be sold, and the money would be returned, but it still wouldn't be the same. These items would have depreciated from their original purchase price. Plus, the guys were reckless with some of their luxury items, and a few cars were reportedly damaged within a month. This has certainly decreased their worth on the black market, but at least some funds have been recovered. Let's not forget that part of the recovered funds will go towards covering investigation and legal fees. By the time of their arrest, these guys had already squandered a significant portion of the $230 million. For Veer, who had received a large share of the funds, the authorities arrested him with only $35 million left in his crypto wallet. One of Malone's wallets still held about $3.5 million untouched. Could the authorities recover these funds? Maybe not, but they've been flagged and are likely to be frozen once they reach any CEX. Besides this, we also have to understand that there is still over $100 million unaccounted for, as some of the guys have gone into hiding. So, that's it, guys. The story of the kid who stole a huge amount of money and thought he was a king. It's a bit like the tale of Icarus, who thought his wax wings could carry him close to the sun.